And we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sportsbet Daily Show. Thursday, yes, Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. Weekend is coming, and we have two great tennis tipsters. Long time no see for Joao, our sports writer, our tennis writer from oddsmarket.com. But you can see Snize every week on our show. Previewing the most important competitions in the world of tennis. Welcome to the show, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you. Nice to see you, Alex. It's been a long time, and everyone. If there is still someone there who used to see me before.
Yeah, I think that it's more than 1 year from the last time we've seen you on camera. But a good thing is that we are reading all your articles on weekly basis. You are doing an absolutely amazing job on oddsmarket.com. Not only tips, but also guide, also news, also other stuff. Very important stuff in the world of tennis. So we thank you for a brilliant work on Odds Market. And we have Snize, of course. Snize, the week after Wimbledon. How you are doing, my friend? Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. Happy to be here. Summer is moving along nicely. We're in a bit of a post-Wimbledon drought from the biggest tennis tournaments, obviously. Got a lot of action going on everywhere, split between hard court, clay, and even some grass there. So there's action pretty much everywhere.
Yeah,
pretty
absolutely.
unpredictable week this.
And I don't know. The most important players are taking a break after Wimbledon. We don't see many of them performing in the top 4 tournaments that are taking place this week. This is why I think that there is money to be made. This is a lot of value. There are many balanced tournaments, and we can see that also from the outright odds from all the tournaments. And let's start with Bastad from Sweden. The ATP of Swedish Open. So we have here outright markets. Jeremy Chardy, favorite to win at 6. Roberto Carbales Bena at 6. Albert Ramos Vinolas at 6.5 and Nicolas Jarry at 6.5. I will start with Joao. If you have any favorite player to win this tournament, the odds are very attractive. You can do a lot of money, I believe, if you bet 3-4 if you make 3-4 bets and you cash at the end. Do you think that there is value to be made, expecting nice quarterfinals between Jeremy Chardy and Jarry here? Both of them favorites to win this tournament. How you are approaching this futures market on this Swedish Open?
This is first of all, talking a little bit about the tournament is a tricky one to bet on, because not only the conditions are incredibly slow. It's one of the slowest tournaments on the ATP tour, and it's also extremely windy. Today was not as windy as yesterday and the days before, but it's tough for the players to compete there. So and this week post Wimbledon is, as you said, everything is very close between the players. You don't see a huge favorite to win, and it's hard to find value on the outright markets. Regarding tomorrow's games, we already have the odds for 3 matches. There is one that I think it can be interesting, is the one also I wrote about on Odds Markets, already published the article, is the contest between Federico Del Bonis and João Sousa. It will be an interesting match between these two, and it will be the 6th time that they will face each other, and the 5th time that will be on clay. And although Sousa has the lead on the head-to-head, he leads by 3-2. It's important to look closer to those head-to-head, because 2 of those 3 wins were in São Paulo and also in Geneva. And those 2 tournaments have one special thing, which is the altitude. We also have articles about that if you want to read a little bit more about how the weather conditions and the altitude can influence the game. But just to explain it pretty quickly, at altitude, the air density is lower, so the ball will travel faster through the air, and players like Sousa, who likes to hit the ball early and strong and like those fast conditions, likes to play on altitude, while on the other hand, Delbonis has a long preparation on his forehand, so he has more problems to play on those conditions. So it's not a surprise that Sousa beat him on those two tournaments. But this week is the opposite. They're playing in very slow conditions. Delbonis has all the time in the world to dictate the points with his forehand. And also the fact that he's left-handed and Sousa's backhand is by far his weakest shot is also an advantage for the Argentinian. So I think that's 1.66 is an interesting price. Should be around 160, 155, the fair price, and we should see also this price dropping in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, I think that if you publish the article on Odds Market, this is what is happening also with my articles, also with my plays on Twitter. The odds are dropping fast, and I don't understand why. Perhaps many people are following us, and they are making profit following our bets. What do you think about that play, Snize? Tell us a little bit about this tournament, your approach, and if you have some interesting bets for the quarterfinals. As Joao said, we have already odds for 3 of the 4 quarterfinals for tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to first of all just give a shout out to Båstad. That is my home tournament in Sweden, played on the southwest coast. As Joao said there about the conditions, it's incredibly slow and incredibly windy as it is very close to the water, and the courts aren't that protected. And as he also said, it being played the week after a Grand Slam makes it very tough to estimate which players come there with an actual mind and to compete and win the title and not just collect a paycheck. So usually on these tournaments, I don't make any outright bets because it's just so hard to know who's going to show up, and it's a bit too risky. So I'm also going to pass on the outrights, but I do have bets for the quarterfinals here. So starting with the match that...
I'm sorry, we know 3 quarterfinals, but I think that we already know also the 4th quarterfinal. Richard Gasquet playing with Juan Ignacio Londero. He's about to win his match with Hugo de Liender. Very nice performance from Ignacio Londero. Why is Richard Gasquet priced at 10 to win this tournament? Because he doesn't have huge, tough competition, let's say.
Richard Gasquet hasn't really looked fit for a long time. He underwent a hernia surgery back in January and still recently came back to the tour. I did watch a bit of his match today, and he struggled a lot, had a lot of problems in winning that in 3 sets. And so obviously slow clay is the most punishing surface for him fitness-wise, and I'm not sure that he is ready for a long run here. So that's why the price is pretty high, and I'd stay away from him personally, because I think it will be tough for him to go all the way.
Okay, I will listen your best matches for tomorrow from the 3 quarterfinals, if you have any.
So I have to agree here with Joao, who broke down that match between Delbonis and Sousa beautifully. I like Delbonis here a lot. He didn't have the best record here in Båstad before. He was 3-4 entering this week, but he's been in good form. Obviously coming off the Perugia final. His ball toss is quite high, which can be a problem in this wind, but he's handled that well thus far, and with his powerful serve and powerful ground strokes, he should be able to hit Sousa off the court. So I've also gone ahead and played Delbonis to win, and I got that at 1.69. Moving on to the second quarterfinal between Jeremy Chardy and Nicolas Jarry. I've gone ahead and played the over 22.5 games at 1.82. This is a battle here between 2 huge servers, both holding over or around 80% of the time on clay, and neither is super adept at breaking serve either. They're under the 20% marker there over the last 12 months. Chardy has been broken 3 times in the tournament, Jarry only twice. I'm expecting long sets as we have seen with these two players before, and possibly 3 sets in a very tight affair. So I've gone ahead and played the over there. And just a quick note on Roberto Carvalles Baena and Albert Ramos Vinolas. This is likely to be a very tight match between two grindy players who don't really have huge weapons. They rely on consistency and outlasting their opponents most of the time. It'll probably come down to who has the better day, and I think the prices are just right there, so I'm going to pass on that one.
Okay, that's it for the Swedish Open. We're going further ATP Croatia, Umag. I will read a little bit the outright markets here. Bjorna Ćorić at 4, Laszlo Djere at 7, Attila Balázs at 7.5, Leonardo Mayer at 8. And I really don't understand why someone like alias Bedene at 11 shouldn't worth a play here, or Dusan Lajovic at 11 again. I think it's a nice way to play the outright markets, but I'm not playing in general these small tournaments. I will let the pros handle it. So I will ask Joao if he has any outright bets, or if he has any plays from the quarterfinals. Obviously, we know 2 quarterfinals: Travaglia versus Balázs, Djere versus Leonardo Mayer. But I'm sure that we will see also Bjorna Ćorić versus Bagnis, because I think that Bjorna Ćorić will win today, and alias Bedene versus Dusan Lajovic. But we know 2 quarterfinals. Please, Joao, take it over.
As you mentioned, Bjorna Ćorić is now the favorite to win the tournament. He wasn't before it started. It was Fabio Fognini, but the Italian retired after during his opening match against Stefano Travaglia. Ćorić is struggling now in the start of his first match on this tournament. He's going to have a very tough task against Salvatore Caruso on this first match. But if he managed to pull it through, he managed to get to the next round, he has a very good opportunity to win his first title on this event. He currently, on all the players on the field, not only he's the better ranked, but the one that has better results overall in the ATP Tour. And although you have tough players there like Dusan Lajovic, as I mentioned, and alias Bedene, if Ćorić shows up at a good level and manages to survive this first match, he should be the favorite to win. But as I said, this first match will be very tricky against Caruso. Just to mention one small thing about Dusan Lajovic, he's a player I try to avoid as maximum as possible. Technically, he's incredibly talented. From the baseline, he can do anything, and especially on clay, he's the kind of player that I really like to see playing. But mentally, I just don't like betting on him. It's just those kind of players that when it comes to the pressure moments, usually he tends to choke and was never able to live up to his potential. So that's one of the reasons I always try to stay away from betting on Dusan Lajovic. Although he has the tennis to beat most of the players on clay, since he's incredibly talented, and he showed it today, beating Andrei Rublev in straight sets.
Do you have any plays for the quarterfinals? Yes, I always hate to bet on players with mental problems, let's say, with like Ostapenko, like you said, Dusan Lajovic. Yeah, it's very tricky to read them, and you don't know what day they will catch. But I will say to you one thing. Simona Halep isn't that kind of player anymore. Yeah, I just a little parenthesis there. Okay, quarterfinals: Travaglia versus Balázs, Djere versus Mayer. Do you have any favorite play, or it's a pass for you totally?
Not really on this tournament so far. On that match, Travaglia against Balázs will be interesting. Travaglia is the one that has the firepower and the weapons to do more from the baseline. But Balázs is, for those who don't know him or haven't seen him play yet, is a very interesting player to see. A heavy topspin on his forehand, very good mover, and he's very smart in what he does on the court. So it should be an interesting match to watch. But in terms of betting wise on these quarterfinals, I don't think we have any valuable opportunities.
Okay, maybe you, but maybe Snize has some great plays for us for the quarterfinals, and maybe also a future bet on an underdog, let's say. What are you saying, Snize?
I think this tournament comes down to whether Borna Coric is fit enough to get through, firstly, his first round match here with Salvatore Caruso. He's coming back from a back injury, which saw him retire during the grass season in Halle. And if he can come through this match, he wins this tournament. I think he's the best player in the field. He's playing in his home tournament here in Croatia. And if he comes through here, he wins. So I'm going to have to wait and see how Coric goes. I'll likely get on him if he looks good here, if he manages to get through this first round match. If not, I'm going to pass because I think it's going to be very wide open. As for the quarterfinals, I do see some value in Travaglia. Attila Balázs, like Joao said, is a very crafty player. He's been slicing the ball a lot. He's been playing a lot of drop shots, but I think he was incredibly lucky to get through Filip Krajinovic, who choked serving for the match and really should have had no business losing that match. He's also hasn't looked fully fit. He took an MTO in round 1 in a tiebreak as well, in the deciding tiebreak, and he looked hampered at times in 2 long 3-setters. And as the tournament goes on, I think he'll be vulnerable. He's been shown having ice packs on his thigh, so I'm not sure he's 100% there. Travaglia has the firepower from the baseline to move him around the court and make him run, and I think that the run of Balázs ends here. So I'm gone ahead and played Travaglia to win at 1.80. As for the other quarterfinal, we have odds for here right now. It's Laszlo Djere versus Leonardo Mayer. I think this is a very close matchup, and both had a battle in their previous round. Although I do like the game of Djere a bit better here, and I think he's the better player of the two right now. And we're basically getting a pick'em line here. So I jumped on Djere at 1.90.
Okay, that's beautiful. ATP Croatia coming to an end, and we are in Romania right now. WTA Bucharest. I was talking with the boys before starting the show. Snize was asking me if I'm happy because we have the WTA Bucharest right now. I said to him that the main event right now in Romania is Simona Halep presenting her Wimbledon trophy, the best player from the world right now at Wimbledon and the best tennis player in the history of our country. Very, very happy to see her winning there. Very happy to see Snize losing his final ticket with Serena there. Yeah, I think that it was a brilliant, brilliant final. I was with my heart outside the yard here, so we were like 10 people following the final in my house, and we were celebrating till the night after that. So it was a superb event yesterday on the biggest stadium of Romania in Bucharest. Simona Halep presenting her Wimbledon title. But WTA Bucharest with some huge surprises here. Patricia Țig pulling off a huge upset today, beating Anastasia Sevastova. Patricia Țig was priced at 4.20 one day before the match. That was huge for Patricia, coming after an injury and making it till here after some great matches from coming from the qualifying matches and arriving till here. But we have, in terms of who will win the title here, Kuzmova at 5, Irina Camelia Begu at 5.5, another Romanian still in the tournament, Laura Siegemund at 7, and also Cristina Pliskova with some bookies at 5.5, favorite to win the trophy, with some bookies at 9, with some bookies at 8. I really don't understand why so different there. But I will let the pros handle it one more time. Joao, take us through this tournament.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Patricia Maria Tig, as you mentioned. She has been doing a great run on this event. Besides the injuries that you mentioned, she also gave birth to a daughter and spent almost 2 years away from the tour. She decided to come back around April. She said she missed tennis and wanted to compete again. She's only 24, so there's still plenty of time for her to play. She played a couple of events in Mexico, in Cancun. She won 2 titles there, reached another 2 finals, and got the confidence that she needed to try to return to the main tournaments, to the WTA Tour. In Wimbledon, she lost in the first round of the qualifying, but was not surprising since she was playing on grass, which is not her favorite surface, and was playing on against a dangerous opponent. But on this event, she has been doing a great run. She's a very tricky player. And although personally I'm not a big fan of betting on players, on lower ranked players who just got a huge win, because sometimes in the next match they have a very hard time to back up that win. Tomorrow
she's unranked. She's unranked right
yeah,
now on the
she's
WTA.
currently without ranking.
And plus, she's playing against Kristina Pliskova. I think that one of the best servers in this tournament right now.
Yeah, Kristina Pliskova is probably the best server on the tour. She's a very dangerous player. And in the previous match, she just lost 2 games, and I think she won 95% of her first serve. So that's incredible stats. But in terms of baseline rallies, and if Patricia can get into the rallies, she's the better player, and she's a tricky player who can mix things well. She will try to force Pliskova to move with drop shots and slices, and she can create some problems tomorrow for the Czech. The price for her win has been dropping since the opening odds. Pinnacle opener at 266. She's now at 245. She has the game and has the ability to beat Pliskova, and as I mentioned, once Pliskova can't get a free point with her serve, Tig will have the advantage. But the fact that she had a huge win today, and sometimes players have a very difficult time on that, it will make it hard for me to bet on her. But in terms of value, according to what they have been playing, I think that your fellow Romanian has a great chance tomorrow.
I'm never betting with my heart, and I proved that a lot of times betting against Simona Halep. I would say 2-0 for Kristina Pliskova at 2.4 right now, the best odds that you can find on the market. As you said, Patricia Tig is coming after a difficult, let's not say season, a difficult time, a break, gave birth and stuff like that. Kristina Pliskova, if she's serving well at her best, I think that Patricia Tig will have hard time to return that serve. This is why I'm seeing a 2-0 for Kristina at 2.4. Great odds, in my opinion. Snize, do you have a favorite play for this match, or for Begu versus Sigismund, or for Krejcikova versus Di Giuseppe?
Yes, I do have 2 plays here, and as you guys beautifully broke down here, I will be taking the value with Patricia Maria Tig. She's currently on an amazing run at this tournament here, and she's facing off against Kristina Pliskova, who does have a lethal serve. But if you can get her into the baseline rallies, she's incredibly vulnerable. She's not a good mover. If you can disrupt her rhythm with slices and drop shots, she'll be in trouble. And currently at these prices, I got it at 250. It's probably gonna drop even more. And yeah, I don't really like. She's just above 50% on clay is Pliskova, and so I think this price is off. As long as she can return well, she has a great chance of winning this match. So I did go ahead and play Tig to win that. And in the other match, I've also gone ahead and played an underdog here. Laura Siegemund has made semifinals and quarterfinals here before, and she has almost 700 clay matches under her belt right now. Begu won the event in 2017, and she will have the home support. But I do think she's still a bit too large of a favorite here. I think this match is more of a 50-50 than the bookmakers believe. So at 230, I needed to go ahead and buy on the German as well. So 2 underdogs for me in Bucharest.
I totally agree with that Laura Siegemund play, but I'm against you guys on that Patricia Tig play. I'm going all the way with Kristina Pliskova 2-0 at 240. Do you have a play on this Begu versus Sigemund, Joao?
No, but I agree with Snize that it should be closer than what the prices suggest. Sigmund is a very tricky player, and on her best day on clay, she can beat basically anyone on this surface, as she already did, especially in Stuttgart, where she always plays very well. But she was too inconsistent in the previous rounds, and Begu is a great ball striker, and she can be also very dangerous, as she already proved in the past on this event. In terms of value and the current prices, I agree that is on Sigmund, but I'm not going to get involved on this match.
Okay, that's great. And finally, we are previewing the WTA from Switzerland, from Lausanne. Some great matches also there. A huge comeback, a great comeback from Fiona Ferro today against Mihaela Buzărnescu, another Romanian player with let's say not struggling mentally sometimes, but let's say that she's not constant at all. She had 6-1, 5-2, and she managed to lose the match. I don't understand how that is possible sometimes, but with Buzărnescu, you can expect this kind of matches. She's very inconsistent. That's why we have her out of the tournament right now, and we have Caro Garcia at 4.5, and we have Bernarda Pera at 4.5 again, Alize Cornet at 4.33. Garcia playing.
Sorry, Garcia is out. Probably
Garcia
is
hasn't
out.
updated the odds.
Yeah. Pera just beat her 2-0 earlier. Yesterday, I think 6-2, 6-4, yes. So this is why we have Bernarda Pera right now as favorite. I really don't understand why we don't have Alize Cornet as favorite in this tournament. Yes, you will have a difficult match against Vikliatseva tomorrow in the quarterfinals, but 6.5 with Betfred right now on Alize Cornet should represent some value here. Again, I will not speak myself. I'm not playing these tournaments. I'm just playing that Kristina Pliskova 2-0 against Tig tomorrow. I will let the pros handle it. So, Joao, outrights or favorite plays from the quarterfinals, please.
This is a very tricky tournament. As I mentioned before, altitude has an influence on the game conditions, and Lausanne is around 500 meters above sea level, so the conditions are quite faster than compared to other tournaments, like for example Bostad, which is at sea level. You can see a huge difference in the ball speed when the players hit. So this is a tricky tournament to approach, as I mentioned. I think that Alize Cornet is having a great week. She struggled with her form in the start of the year, but this has been a good tournament for her. She's a great defender, and tomorrow it's going to be an interesting matchup against Vikliatseva, as you mentioned. Cornet is too favored in my opinion. I think she'll get the win, but the current price around 147, 150 is not enough in my opinion. But I think that she has a great chance on this tournament, and also tomorrow, because she's a great counterpuncher, good defender, and against the Russian, although she has the firepower, but will have a tough task against the French, the defense skills. But overall, this tournament for me is a pass. I think that the conditions are very tricky, and as you see, most of the favorites are losing, huge surprises. The conditions are 90%, if you want to say, when you're playing tennis. Things can change completely from week to week depending on when you're playing, and tennis players are always moving from one tournament to the other, have like 2 days to adjust. And playing on altitude takes time, not only for the players to adjust to the game conditions, but also the body to adjust to the difference of air density. So this kind of tournaments on altitude, I usually try to avoid them, and this is one of those cases.
So you heard the specialist. He's skipping this tournament. It's very tough to adapt from week in and week out. From the difference of weather, difference of time, let's say, difference of altitude. So he will skip this tournament, but maybe the other pro, Snize, has something for this tournament. Me personally, I think that Joao convinced me to play Cornet 2-0 against Vikliatseva tomorrow at 2.2.
Yes, as Joao said there, this is a tournament played at altitude, and those are always tricky for the players to adapt, especially so in the week after a Grand Slam, with some players coming in trying to play from the grass to a clay. So the transition is tough there. But I do have some bets here for our matches. We've had a surprise run here of lucky loser Chinese player Xing Yun Han, who certainly made the most of her opportunity. She's beaten Gracheva and Samsonova as huge underdogs in 2 straight matches here. I think Bernarda Pera has looked great here in this tournament. She dumped out Caroline Garcia, the number 2 seed, in straight sets, despite only hitting 42% of her first serves, won 81% of the points behind that first serve. So she's looked dominant, and she's won both of her matches easily in straight sets, and with a step down in competition with a lucky loser of 2 huge upset wins, I think it will be very tough for Xin Yun Han to step up yet again and perform as a huge underdog here. So I've gone ahead and played the under 18.5 games at 1.95. I think Pera wins this, and I think she wins it 6-3, 6-3 or better. In the other match, another play that has been making some strides is Sam Stosur. I think that this tournament being played at altitude helps her. She has a really big serve. She has huge ground strokes. And she's come through both of her matches here. I think that Fiona Ferro's serve is certainly one that the powerful Aussie can match. It can be vulnerable. It can be shaky. I watched her, obviously, a different tournament, but at Bosta, especially against Kawa, she was bullied around in a 6-0, 6-2 loss. And I think that facing a powerful player like Stosur can provide results like that. So I think this matchup is pretty good for Stosur. I've gone ahead and played her to win that match at 1.67. And then finally, I think this draw has opened up for Alice Cornet. She will have a tough match tomorrow against Vikliatseva. But I do think that she will be able to get through this. She's looked very good in this tournament here with 2 straight sets victories. And Vikliatseva isn't a player that I hold in the same regard as Cornet when she's playing well. They have split the head-to-head matchups, which is a bit of a concern because it's probably going to be tight. But I still think that Cornet will prevail here, so I've gone ahead and played her to win. Minus 3.5 games. I usually don't do 2-0 in the WTA because it is likely to drop a set, and the spread can still hit even if it goes 3 sets. So yeah, I think we have Cornet through with a bit to spare here on the games.
Okay, that's about it from our tennis coverage this week. We previewed 4 tournaments, quarterfinals from all 4, some outright bets, some very nice informations, what to look for when to bet before, what to check the weather, the altitude, and so on. You can see that also on Odds Market. Joao is writing some incredible articles on that specific thing. Some complete guides how to bet on tennis, some analysis, some players profiles, and every week many betting tips from the tournaments going on that week. See you guys next week. I don't know if we will see Joao next week. I hopefully we'll see him. Anyway, we'll discuss.
We'll try.
Yeah, we'll discuss later on or tomorrow the schedule for next week. ATP Hamburg, Gstaad, Atalanta, and WTA Palermo next week. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me. Best of luck with your bets, and see you next week.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Alex.
Thanks for having me. See you.
Bye-bye. So that's about it with tennis, but we are not, the show must go on. We have another sport to talk about, and we have our lovely colleague and great tipster, Dave Betts, who will cover today the UFC on ESPN4, or in other words, hashtag UFC San Antonio. Welcome to the show, Dave. Wait, I cannot hear you, Rafa. Come on, let's hear Dave.
Hello.
Say something, Dave. Okay, now we hear you. Okay, welcome to the show. What's up? How's going on?
What's going on, my friend? I haven't spoken to you in a while.
Yeah, 2 weeks. I was on vacation. It was 1 week, 8 days actually of vacation. I'm back preparing for another season. Yeah, I'm back, and great to see you. Great to talk with you again about another UFC weekend. I wanted to talk with you a little bit. What is happening with our favorite part of the week, the punching parlay season 2? You're struggling a little bit here after killing it in the first season, 10-0. This season, it's not so fortunate.
This season has been horrible. There's literally no excuses. Not much has changed. I think it's just time and a place. The cards, I'm not gonna lie, the cards have been real tough, and a lot of the fights that they've put together over the past couple of months, we have seen a lot of close stylistic matchups. So that could probably be my only excuse, really. I don't like to give excuses. Look, we're here to give tips and break down fights, and I'll do that to my best ability. If it wasn't for the success in season 1, personally, I probably would have stopped doing it by now. But due to the success in season 1 and the success that I have in parlays long term, I'll be glad to end season 2, put it that way, and hopefully season 3 we can do a 10-0 again. But yeah, if it keeps going down the same path, might have to switch it up and maybe try something else, because as you said, this season of the Punch and Parlay has gone downhill. But it's also not a position where you want to start fading the Punch and Parlay either, because although it is losing, it is only losing by 1 every week. So it's just annoying.
This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to ask you. Is losing by 1 every week. This is unlucky, if you ask me. This is not. You shouldn't stop doing that. Even if you lose the season 2, you won the season 1 10-0. And I think that you should continue to put your hard work, because you are working so much week in and week out for these articles and for these roundowns. I don't know. All the odds market team, all the tipsters are working hard, very hard, to bring you guys the best content, the best betting tips. We are a family here. We specialized in different sports, and we have Dave here who is killing it. Doesn't matter if his punching parlay is not successful in season 2, but the dogs and their odds is cashing week in and week out. So if you want to do that, fade the punching parlay, but play the dogs and the odds. You are doing an exceptional job with that article.
Yeah, it's real funny, because it's like they have done well together. Because really, dogs and the odds has only had 2 losing weeks where all the dogs have lost, and I think now I've probably wrote anywhere from 25 to around 40 dogs and their odds articles. So if you can talk shit about the Punch and Parlay, but let's look at the winners, because I'm still up 73 units. Dogs and their odds, I'm still cashing underdogs every week. I'm losing a unit, more than a unit last week, because I put more on last week than I usually do, because I was really confident in last week's. But it goes to show with fighting. Fighting is and I'll say this, and I'll always say this, fighting, other than baseball, is probably the hardest sport to handicap on the planet. The bet that cost us last week, he got knocked out instantly. We didn't even really have a chance to see what a good fighter he is. All that we got shown from that fight was he got caught off guard and got knocked out. It was unfortunate. It was really unfortunate, because for one, He was the younger fighter. He was going to be the stronger fighter. He's the more active fighter. And if Uriah Faber hadn't have knocked out Ricky Simón within that first minute of the fight, we definitely would have saw Ricky Simón take over and win that fight by decision. I have no doubt in my mind. But yeah, we just have to keep on grinding and hope that the luck does swing back our way with the punch and parlay. It's ever since I started doing graphics, Alex. I started making graphics for the punch and parlay, and then that was it. That's it. It just started losing, and I'm like, whoa! All I've done is put a little bit of effort into the graphics. Like, who's against me here? The MMA gods are against me on the punch and parlay.
Mate. I know that you're an excellent capper. Great. You're doing a great job week in and week out. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We might have losing weeks. We might have losing months. But as I like to say, the tough job is to be on plus at the end of the season. And we are there every fucking time. So let's talk about San Antonio a little bit here. Yes. I heard Jason at the Sports Gig CEO that he was saying that he doesn't like this card. He wrote an article for Odds Market with a main event here, previewing the main event, Don Anjos versus Edwards here, and he really likes the looks of Leon Edwards to win at 1.886. How do you feel about this main event?
Right. So first off, I'll let everyone know that I probably won't be placing a bet on this one, just because the odds on Edwards. I like Edwards to win for starters, but the odds, in my opinion, it should be a straight pick 'em. But we're looking at Leon Edwards. I think he's sitting at 172 at Bet365. See, European bookmakers seem to be giving a lot more respect to Leon Edwards, and I'm seeing a lot of low odds on him. So I'm seeing 1.72, 1.74. But if I take a look at the American books, if you go to Sports International, you can get 1.83. So if you can get 1.83, I would put a unit on Leon Edwards. 1.72, I think it's not worth it. It's a lot of points difference, and it is stylistically, it's a close fight. They can both grapple, they can both strike. It's funny, Leon lives, well, he was born 20 minutes from where I am. He's from Birmingham. He's flew under the radar in the UFC basically his entire career. He's been here for a long time now, and he's beat some serious people. But because a lot of his fights have come by decision, he didn't make his mark in the media. So he hasn't had highlight reels of knockouts, and he hasn't had like devastating finishes within the first round and stuff like that. So it's easy for him to fly under the radar and for people to count him out. But yeah, I agree with Jay. I do lean with Leon. He's the younger fighter. He's taller. He has the reach advantage. What else could back there? The way that Leon Edwards has dealt with Donald Cerrone, I think Jay mentioned this in his article. Not many people can handle Donald Cerrone the way Leon did. And even though Dos Anjos also fought Cerrone and beat him by knockout, I still think Leon put on the better performance. And yeah, I think the favorite is in the correct spot this week. But because I don't like the price and I have a certain amount of units already spread out across the card, I probably won't be placing a bet on him. But there's a good chance that if Rafael can maybe dominate for the first half of the first round or even the first minute, I can jump in and catch him in play on the live betting.
And I know.
Live betting
Plus, I know that you don't like to bet against Jason. I know that you guys prefer not to talk about the articles that you've written. So to go against him, Like now, I would ask you about the main event. You will say to me, Don Anjos is the play here, and it's a kind of disrespect. I can
Yeah.
hear that. But let me tell you, also on the European book is Edwards opened at 1.9 with bet at home, and at 2.0 free with 1x bet here there. So yeah, maybe everyone jumped on Edwards, and the line moved, and the odds dropped significantly. But let's talk about a little bit about the dogs and their odds for this week. And let me ask you something. Greg Hardy versus Juan Adams.
Yeah.
1.9, 1.9, both of them. Very evenly match there. Why you consider this fight? Why you are? Who is the underdog in this fight, and why is he the underdog? Because they are both on the same line. Why you
Yeah.
included this fight on such an article?
I'm glad you brought this up because I did want to talk about this fight. Greg Hardy versus Joanne Adams. Big boys, heavyweights. I'd say there's a 90% chance this fight is going to end by knockout. And this is a pick'em, and there isn't a favorite. The line has, it's been moving up and down just between favorite, underdog, favorite. Some books have Hardy as the favorite, some have Adams as the favorite. And they've nailed it. It is a pick'em. So we have to look into other areas of these fighters where we can see an advantage. And this week, I feel that this is I like this play a lot. Outside of the octagon, Greg Hardy's took a lot of slack, and I think that a lot of people they just don't like him as a person. If you have a history of abuse towards women or anything like that, you are not going to stand much chance in the media in a combat sport. The guy he's like 6'6" and weighs about 20 stone. So when you see cases in the news where somebody has not been very nice to their spouse, it's going to affect you, and that's affected Greg Hardy, and that has followed him no matter where he has been. He used to play in the NFL, but this fight, back to this fight anyway. I'm going off point here. He trains with American Top Team. That's what I like. He has the best fighters in the world and the best coaches in the world training him. Not only that, he was already an athlete. He has that athletic, explosive power. Now, don't get me wrong, Joanne Adams is a great wrestler, and he has probably the equal amount of power. He's the same size. They're both huge. It's going to be War of the Giants at the weekend. It's there's gonna be a knockout. I just know there's gonna be a knockout. It's funny because neither of the fighters have ever been knocked out. Neither of them have ever been finished. But both fighters, all of their wins have came by knockout. So yeah. And Adams is also returning after his first loss. Greg Hardy is still undefeated. Both fighters are very green, and they're still fresh to the sport. So it's not something I'm gonna, be like, put 2-3 units. No. I have half a unit on Greg Hardy to win, based on the team behind him, and I just feel like he's gonna have the advantage with progressing quicker in the sport, and that's basically what I'm basing my play off this week. The price and Greg Hardy's team behind him. It's funny though, because Joanne Adams is also bringing in emotions to this fight. He doesn't like Greg Hardy. He has been trying to fight Greg Hardy for the majority of his career, I think, which isn't a long one, but in the smaller promotions prior to UFC, he tried to get himself booked up with Greg. Greg's team avoided it. They then went to both fight on the Contender Series, which is basically it's like a camp for fighters to, showcase their skills and potentially get a contract in the UFC. They both went on the Contender Series. Once again, Greg Hardy didn't want to fight him. So they had different fights with other fighters. They both won. They both earned the contracts. Now they're both here in UFC. And for some reason, Greg Hardy's team have now decided to take the fight. I think they have decided to take this fight because they have seen the flaws in Joanne Adams' game that Greg can capitalize on. And I think they believe that Greg will knock him out and do it quite convincingly. So, yeah.
2.05 at Pinnacle right now for Hardy to win the match against Adams.
Nice.
Huge odds right now. Or 2.03 at BetHeart, 2.0 at Bet365, 1.91 at William Hill, 1.9 at Unibet. So depending what bookie available you have for your betting tips. I would like to mention that my advice is to have multiple bookies, not to have problems if you are winning better, not to have problem with closing accounts and stuff like that, because bookies usually do that. Okay, second fight from this article. I really like to read all the time your Dogs and the Roads articles. James Vick versus Dan Hooker. Tell us about this fight and your best bet for this one.
Yeah, very, very similar in regards to reasons why I like this play to the previous fight, and that'll be down to the odds. I don't understand why James Vick is coming in at 230. This fight should be a pick-em. I can't favour either fighter. It's straight down the middle for me in this one. There's nothing outside of these guys' records that is telling me one is a clear favourite than the other. Not only that, Dan Hooker's previous fight, and we've seen this in the past a lot, where a fighter will have the confidence beaten out of him. And Dan Hooker wasn't doing too bad in the UFC, and to be honest, I liked him. I had high hopes for Dan, but the beating that he took in his last fight was pretty bad. I think he'd gone on a 4-fight win streak. He hadn't beaten champions and stuff, but he beat some legit guys. He took out Ross Pearson. He took out Mark Diakese. Another legend, Jim Miller, he beat. And then they upped the level in competition, and they gave him Edson Barboza back in December. And the fight should have been stopped. I don't agree with how the referee handled that fight. I also think corners should get involved more and stop their fighters from having the crap beaten out of them. Dan's body is a tough guy. His body fought through it. You will see guys take a shot to the stomach and their body will break down and the fight will be over. You'll also see fighters being so tough that they just take it and take it and take it. And Dan Hooker was anybody that has access to Fight Pass or even YouTube.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dave. Your camera froze and we need to call you back.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you, but we cannot see you properly.
Okay.
Yeah, till Dave is back, I would like to tell you that he's writing 3 articles per week for all the UFC events. Next week, obviously, we have the UFC 240 with Max Holloway and Frankie Edgar as the main event, and Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer as the co-main event. Also, Jason Paglia, at the Sports Keg CEO. You can find him on Twitter. He's writing for Odds Market some brilliant UFC articles and giving us winning tips week in and week out. Hopefully Rafa will solve it fast with Dave, because we want him to talk more about this fight, why he's picking James Vick at 2.3 with Bet365 in one of his underdogs bets for this card, UFC on ESPN 4. But also I wanted to ask him more, and I wanted him to give me his best and top bet for this card. But he is back. Dave, continue with that fight. We were able to hear you, but your camera froze a little bit. Tell us about final words about this fight, and after that, best bet for this card on Saturday.
Yeah. So the both guys are coming off losing streaks. Dan Hooker just had the living crap beaten out of him. Just watching that fight back is going to affect a fighter alone. I think that's going to put a dent in his confidence. He's the smaller fighter. He needs to get inside the range of James Vick, which I just don't think he's going to be able to do. James Vick hasn't got the best record himself. He's also coming off a losing streak. He did pretty bad in his previous fight against Paul Fowler. As long as Vick can avoid the leg kicks, I think he could finish Dan Hooker or take a decision. Yes. When we're talking about styles, there's not much to go on. Both fighter has a good chance to come out victorious, but because of the odds and, Dan Hooker in that previous fight, I'll just have to side with James Vick. The odds are just off. They're just way off. And the fight should be a pick on. So with the odds and the probability, I'm just going to have to take James Vick. And I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes him either, because 4 of Hooker's previous 5 fights have all ended by knockout. And I've got to take James Vick here at 230 plus 130. I think that price I took at Betway. I'm not sure if the price has gone down. I feel like people might start putting a bit on James Vick, so there's a good chance that price could come down, but I'm not sure.
I will check till you are telling us your favorite bet of this card. The one that you will put 1 unit and your favorite bet of this card. I was telling to our friends here that next week we have the UFC 240.
Huge.
And with the main event, Max Holloway versus Frankie Edgar, and co-main event, Chris Cyborg and Felicia Spencer. But till I will search that set of odds for the previous fight that you're talking about, please give us your best bet for this card. We lost him again. I'm sorry, some technical problems from Dave. He's back. Okay, he's back.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. So your best bet for this Saturday card.
Right. I'm gonna do something that I've never done. I'm gonna give you guys every play that I'm going to take this weekend. There's not that many, so it will take me 30 seconds. Let's go. We've got Greg Hardy versus Joanne Adams. I'm going to put a unit on Greg Hardy to win at odds of 1.95. We have James Vick versus Daniel Hooker. I'm going to put half a unit on James Vick at 2.30. We have Alexander Hernandez versus Francisco Trinaldo. I am putting 1.61 units on Alexander Hernandez at 1.62. We have Walt Harris versus Aleksei Oleinik. I am going to put 1.49 units on Walt Harris at 1.76. And then we have the punching parlay, which is Jennifer Maia and Irene Aldana versus Raquel Pennington. The fight will go the distance. Them together gives us 2.30 on the decimal line. And then I have another parlay, a secret punching parlay, which is Felipe Corrales versus Domingo Pilate. And I have Pilate to win at 1.35 And then I have Jennifer Maya and Roxanne Modafferi, the fight to go the distance, 1.33. Combine them odds is 1.80. And I'm putting 1.25 units on that. So altogether, I'm risking around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Risking about 5.5, 6 units.
That's brilliant. I will ask you. We don't have a lot of time from this show. Is already past the hour that we are normally film. But I will ask you next week how you are putting 1.49 units on a play. This makes me think about that. But you will tell me why next week. 1.49.
There's a method
units,
to the madness. Trust me.
1.61 units. That's crazy, man. But anyway, can't wait to hear your answer next week. Best of luck with this card. Hopefully, the punching parlay will hit this week. But if it doesn't, many other plays will do. I'm sure about that. Thank you very much, Dave, for joining us today, and see you next week.
Brother.
Best of luck.
You too, brother. Have a good day.
And thank you, everyone, for watching us. Bye. Sorry, Rafa, you can close it now.